There's something unsettling about watching most people navigate their daily existence. They rush between obligations, scroll endlessly through feeds, chase happiness like it's always just out of reach. Meanwhile, there are entire cultures that have figured out something profound about what it actually means to be alive. Today, you're going to discover 11 insights from Japanese philosophy that completely reframe how you experience being human. Not productivity hacks, not life optimization tricks. Deep truths about what creates genuine fulfillment. These aren't grand gestures or dramatic transformations. They're subtle shifts in perspective that compound into something extraordinary. Here's what makes these insights different. They don't ask you to become someone else. They invite you to master being human exactly as you are, with all your imperfections and contradictions. First, there's a concept that might revolutionize how you approach change itself. In Japanese culture, there's this idea called kaizen. You've probably heard the word, but you've likely misunderstood what it actually means. Kaizen isn't about improvement. It's about the smallest possible step forward. 1% better. That's it. Most people fail at change because they try to overhaul everything at once. January 1st arrives, they declare war on their old selves, and by February, they're exhausted and defeated. Kaizen says, forget all that. Want to read more? Don't commit to an hour a day. Read 1 page. Want to get stronger? Don't plan elaborate workout routines. Do 1 push-up. The magic isn't in the action itself. It's in proving to yourself that change is possible, that you can be trusted to follow through. 1 page becomes 5 pages. 1 push-up becomes 10. Not through willpower, but through momentum. This is part of learning how to master being human. Small, consistent actions that your resistance can't even detect. The second insight challenges everything you think you know about purpose. In Okinawa, one of the few places on Earth where people regularly live past 100, almost everyone can tell you their ikigai, their reason for being. Not their job, not their role, their reason for existing. Here's what's fascinating. Ikigai isn't about changing the world or leaving a legacy. It can be as simple as tending a garden, teaching neighborhood children, or creating something beautiful with your hands. The power isn't in the scale of the purpose, it's in having one at all. When researchers study these communities, they find something remarkable. People with a clear sense of ikigai have stronger immune systems, lower rates of depression, and yes, they live longer. Your body literally wants to keep going when life has meaning. But most people never sit down and ask themselves the essential questions. What makes you feel alive? What comes naturally to you? What does the world need that you could provide? Third, there's a practice that might be the simplest longevity secret you'll ever encounter. It's called hara hachi bu, and it means eating until you're 80% full. Not satisfied, not stuffed, just 80%. Your brain takes 20 minutes to register fullness, so when you eat until you feel satisfied, you've already consumed more than your body needed. But if you stop at 80%, you give your digestive system exactly what it requires and nothing more. That slight restriction has been shown to extend lifespan in virtually every species studied. This isn't about dieting or deprivation. It's about awareness. Halfway through your next meal, pause. Ask yourself if you could stop there and feel fine. Most people eat on autopilot, finishing whatever's in front of them because that's what they're supposed to do. But your plate doesn't know what your body needs. Fourth, Japanese doctors actually prescribe something called shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, not hiking, not exercising, simply being present in nature. Walking slowly, breathing deeply, paying attention to what surrounds you. When you spend time among trees, measurable changes happen in your body. Stress hormones drop, blood pressure lowers, your immune system strengthens. Trees release compounds called phytocides to protect themselves from insects. When you breathe these in, your nervous system shifts from fight or flight to rest and digest. You don't need a forest. A park works. A tree-lined street works. The key is going without distractions. No phone, no podcast, no agenda. Just slow walking and noticing. The way light filters through leaves, the sound of wind, the smell of earth. This isn't wasted time. This is how you restore your capacity to be human in a world that constantly demands your attention. If you're finding value in these insights, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button and subscribe to Master Being Human. It helps more people discover this content, and there's much more where this came from. Fifth, there's a philosophical concept that completely changes how you relate to imperfection. Wabi-sabi is the acceptance of things that are impermanent, incomplete, and flawed. In Western culture, you're taught to chase perfection, flawless appearances, perfect homes, curated social media feeds. But that pursuit is exhausting because nothing is actually perfect, and nothing lasts forever. Wabi-sabi says that's exactly where beauty lives. A weathered wooden table isn't old, it's full of history. A crack in pottery isn't damage, it's character. A wrinkle on your face isn't a flaw, it's a map of your experiences. When you embrace this perspective, you stop trying to fix everything that seems imperfect about your life. You stop comparing yourself to impossible standards. This doesn't mean giving up on improvement. It means accepting that progress is messy, that life is imperfect, and that's not a problem to solve. That's the point. Next time you notice something imperfect in your world, instead of seeing it as something to fix, ask yourself what's beautiful about it. Those scars, those mistakes, those imperfections, they're not flaws. They're proof you're living. Sixth, there's a quality called gaman, endurance with dignity. The ability to tolerate difficulty without complaint, to persevere through hardship without breaking down. In Western culture, this might sound like toxic positivity, like you're supposed to suppress your emotions. But gaman isn't about denying pain, it's about not letting pain control you. It's the quiet strength that says, this is hard, but you can handle it. You don't need to broadcast every struggle. You don't need validation for your difficulties. You just need to keep moving forward. When you stop constantly sharing your problems, you stop reinforcing the story that you're a victim. You stop feeding the narrative that life is happening to you instead of through you. This doesn't mean suffering in silence. It means not letting suffering define your identity. In a world where everyone shares their struggles online, looking for sympathy and likes, gaman reminds you that strength doesn't need an audience. Seventh, there's something called omoyari, compassionate consideration, the ability to anticipate other people's needs before they ask, to think about how your actions affect those around you, not because you have to, but because you recognize that everything is connected. In Japanese culture, this shows up everywhere. People speak quietly on public transportation. They clean up after themselves in shared spaces. They remove their shoes when entering homes. It's a society built on the understanding that when you make life easier for others, life becomes easier for everyone. This isn't just politeness, it's practical wisdom. When everyone practices omoyari, trust increases, stress decreases, and communities function more smoothly. But beyond that, omoyari makes you happier. When you shift focus from yourself to others, your own problems shrink, your perspective widens, and you feel more connected to the world. Next time you're about to do something, pause and ask how it will affect the people around you. These tiny acts of consideration cost nothing, but they create ripples that change everything. Eighth, there's a practice that reveals something profound about resilience. Kintsugi is the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. When a bowl or vase breaks, instead of throwing it away or trying to hide the damage, Japanese artisans fill the cracks with precious metal. The repaired piece becomes more beautiful than it was originally. This is a metaphor for how to be human. You will break, you will fail, you will be hurt. But that doesn't make you worthless. It makes you real. And when you repair yourself, when you put the pieces back together, those cracks become part of your story. Not something to hide, but something to honor. The strongest people aren't those who never broke. They're the ones who broke and rebuilt themselves, carrying that gold with them. If you're going through something difficult right now, remember this. You're not being damaged, you're being transformed. The version of yourself that emerges will be stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than before. Ninth, there's an understanding about time that Western culture completely misses. The Japanese concept of ma refers to the space between things, the pause between notes in music, the silence between words in conversation, the emptiness between objects in a room. Ma recognizes that meaning often exists in what's not there. Most people fill every moment with activity, every silence with noise, every space with stuff. But Ma suggests that emptiness isn't something to avoid, it's something essential. Those pauses are where reflection happens, where creativity emerges, where you actually process what you're experiencing. When you're constantly consuming content, constantly busy, constantly stimulated, you miss the spaces where wisdom lives. Learning to master being human means learning to be comfortable with emptiness, to let conversations breathe, to let thoughts settle, to exist without always doing. 10th, there's a perspective on failure that completely reframes how you approach risk. In Japanese culture, there's less stigma around failing because failure is seen as information, not identity. When something doesn't work, the question isn't what's wrong with you, the question is what can be learned. This creates a completely different relationship with trying new things. When failure isn't a personal judgment, you're free to experiment, to take risks, to discover what you're capable of. Most people avoid attempting anything they might fail at, which means they never discover what they might succeed at. The Japanese approach to failure recognizes something essential. Every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once terrible at what they now do beautifully. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the raw material of mastery. Finally, there's an insight about community that challenges the Western obsession with independence. The Japanese understanding of interdependence recognizes that no one succeeds alone, that individual well-being and collective well-being are inseparable, that when you help others flourish, you create conditions for your own flourishing. This isn't about self-sacrifice or losing your individuality. It's about understanding that humans are fundamentally social creatures, that your well-being is connected to the well-being of those around you, that creating conditions for others to thrive creates conditions for you to thrive. When you shift from asking what you can get to asking what you can contribute, everything changes. Your relationships deepen, your sense of purpose clarifies, your daily life becomes meaningful in ways you didn't expect. That's what it really looks like to master being human in everyday life. Not through grand gestures or dramatic changes, but through these subtle shifts in perspective, through understanding that growth happens slowly, that purpose can be simple, that imperfection is beautiful, that difficulty builds character, that consideration creates connection. These aren't quick fixes. They're invitations to see your daily experience differently, to find meaning in moments you previously rushed through, to discover beauty in aspects of life you previously ignored. You don't need to adopt all 11 insights at once. Pick one that resonates. Let it influence how you move through your days. Notice what shifts. Then, when that becomes natural, add another. The Japanese don't chase transformation. They build it, one small choice at a time, one subtle shift at a time. And over years, those small changes create lives that are calm, purposeful, and deeply fulfilling. Not because they're perfect, but because they're intentional. If you want to explore these concepts more deeply with others who are on a similar path, join the Master Being Human community on School. The link is in the description. It's a space for reflection, discussion, and practice, a place where you can explore what it means to master being human alongside others who value this journey. These insights aren't just interesting ideas, they're invitations to live differently, to be human more skillfully, to find meaning and beauty in the ordinary moments that make up most of life.